Let's stick on political issues now, and I want to refer to what's been a fiery debate in Canberra over the employees' rights, our right as employees to switch off after hours. The Greens are pushing for a change to Labor's IR laws, meaning that workers could ignore calls or emails after hours without being faced with punishment. Here's Anthony Albanese on the issue.
What we're simply saying is that someone who's not being paid 24 hours a day shouldn't be penalised if they're not online and available 24 hours a day.
Now let's bring in Andrew McKellar from the Australian Chamber of Commerce. Thanks for joining us, Andrew. Is it really workable for government to be sticking itself in the middle of this relationship? Phone calls or emails out of hours between workers and employers. Do we need the hand of government in there?
Well, Chris, absolutely we do not. I think this really is a triumph of stupidity over common sense. This is a bit of a thought bubble from the Greens, and really how it would work. The idea that we need to legislate for these sorts of things. Of course, it's obvious this should be something that is able to be discussed between employers and employees. Of course, in many enterprise agreements now, we are seeing that there are perfectly sensible provisions, arrangements for how these sorts of contact arrangements should be made. So we've got to get the balance right, but clearly there's no need for government to be imposing itself here with legislation, with penalties. That's ridiculous.
This is what does my head in. Now, we all know there can be bad bosses and bad employees, and there'll be extreme examples of this, but they sort themselves out because people leave the job or whatever. But in the real world, there's never been greater flexibility in the workplace. So many people working at home, etc. So, of course, the communications between the office and the staff happens all hours. And you're not sitting up at 3 o'clock in the morning checking your emails, but you might be getting them at crazy hours.
Well, look, I think this is the thing. The world of work is changing. We've seen huge transformation coming out of the pandemic and the response to that. Increasingly, people are saying that they don't necessarily want to be coming into the office or into the workplace set hours, 9 to 5, 5 days a week. They want some more flexibility. If you want to drop the kids off at school, if you want time to go and pick them up, if you want to work, a bit later, people want that opportunity. So I think we all need to be flexible. We need to look at how we're going to innovate in this space, but then to be trying to tie businesses, small businesses, medium-sized businesses in knots over how they manage these things, it just does not make sense.
I just imagine Albanese ringing his press secretary at 11 o'clock at night saying that he's worried about some issue or other, and the press sec saying, sorry, boss, I knocked off back at 5 o'clock. It's just laughable. Just quickly, while I've got you there, Andrew, the death of tax reform. We know that Labor's change their broken promise. Tax cuts will give a little bit more to people at the lower end of the income scales, but they're taking more from the top levels. They're putting another tax threshold in there, a 37 tax rate that's going to stick around, and so the flattening is gone. Are you worried that long term this is of detriment to the economy and aspiration in the economy?
Well, we are concerned about the impact of that decision. Look, the stage 3 tax cuts in their original form, I don't think they were revolutionary, but they did have this flattening of the tax scales. It would have meant that over time, this problem of bracket creep would have been diminished, taking out 32.5%, taking out the 37% tax bracket. Now, by going back on that commitment, the government has made it much harder, I think, to contemplate some of the more difficult things that will need to be contemplated if we're going to make our tax system much more competitive. So I think that's a bad signal, and I think it will make it much harder if we're going to achieve some of the things that we really do need to look at if we're really going to try and make the Australian economy as competitive as it needs to be.